thanks. All right, birth of a bit, how physics became information science. In 1997, Stephen Hawking had a bet with John Preskill. And it was something I read about at the time in 1997. And I was confused by the bet because the bet was that no information could escape a black hole. And what confused me about that was I thought physics was a material science, that it wasn't an information science. Why are physicists talking in terms of information? And that's what this is showing. So you know that when it comes to a black hole, you've heard that there's an event horizon. When particles get past the event horizon, they can't escape. There's not enough velocity to get sucked into the black hole. That even includes light, but light is part particle, so that kind of makes sense. It still didn't make sense about, even better, Einstein came up with an equivalence. You could actually show that there's a formula to show that energy and matter is equivalent, and you can actually convert back and forth between them. And so all of that made sense to me. What didn't make sense is we're talking about information escaping into a black hole. I did not understand that at all. And it was a mystery that I kind of sat on for 10 years, not really trying to solve it. It was just something I had in the back of my mind going, this seems weird. Physicists are weird. They talk in a different world, a different language. But then I came across an explanation. This is not the only explanation, but it helped solidify in my mind why physicists talk about information. And that is the concept of entropy. That is the second law of thermodynamics. And the second law of thermodynamics, it says that entropy will always increase, often interpreted as disorder will always increase. If you have a system left to itself, it's going to increase the disorder in the system. This is an example of a very ordered system. It's not high entropy, low entropy. On the left-hand side, you have cold particles. On the right-hand side, you have hot particles. And 20 of each, they are separated, and now you can see these are separated. But if you actually punch a hole in the middle of the wall there, and you leave it to its own devices, entropy ends up with something like this. It does not end up, it takes that order and then creates disorder. And what's interesting about the concept is entropy, if you think deeply about it, it seems like, is it really a law, right? It's probabilistic. Can we say it's really a law, or is it just a statistical certainty? Well, James Clerk Maxwell thought about that same thing. And he said, I think it's just a statistical certainty that it's not an actual law. And he came up with a thought experiment in order to prove that. And his thought experiment was, let's say you had that exact same box, you have cold on the right, hot on the left, and you had a demon that was able to actually observe all those particles. Very small demon that could observe those particles and their velocity and where they're going. And he had access to a trap door. And when a cold particle, if you had a mixed box, imagine this was completely mixed. If a cold particle was going toward the right, you open the door and let it through and you close it. And if a hot particle from the right is going to the left, you open the door and close it. And by doing so, eventually you will have now ordered system, but it will not have been provided by the amount of energy required in order to order it. In order for a disordered system to become ordered, you have to put energy/work into it. And the amount of work the demon would do by opening and closing the module is not enough to explain the ordered of the system now, or the reduction in disorder. And so he said, if you could have a demon that would do this, then basically what this means is you could create a perpetual motion machine. The demon would be able to have it so that you would have obviously constant energy. What's funny is those demons didn't exist back then, but we kind of have them now, right? We actually have technology that can do this, that we have the ability to do this. So James Clerk Maxwell is right, then we could actually violate the second law of thermodynamics, and we would be able to use less energy to produce more energy. But then a guy by the name of Leo Szilard came along, and he said that he extended that thought experiment. And it was him and another guy that I don't remember anymore. They came together and they basically said, you're not taking into account what is happening in the brain of that demon. And more importantly, and this is the bizarre thing, and I'll have to dig into it deeper, they brought it down to, in order to store that information, of all those particles where they're at in the demon's brain requires a certain amount of energy, or even better, to erase the energy there. So you have now a place for more information to come in as you go. Then that actually restores, and they did the calculations, and it restores the energy expenditure in order to now restore the second law of thermodynamics. And then they even came up with a formula. So now not only do we have E equals mc squared, we have this other h equal the sum of pi log 2 pi, or pi, I don't know, all that. But it's mass to energy equivalent to information, so now we can have a mass to information, and that's why physicists talk about it.